Hello, everybody. My name is Magdalena Krstanoski. I have traveled to Barcelona in 2022, December 2022, for the conference. IEES, fantastic conference, presented my paper, met my colleagues there. I warmly recommend to everybody from the industry to catch up with the next conference that is coming up in Buenos Aires. A little bit about my background. I have a doctorate in mechanical engineering, a Bachelor of Science and a Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering. I worked in the past for elevator companies and a little bit for consulting company. Nowadays, I do own my little LLC, Concept to Solution, working on OSHA 10, OSHA 30 hours training safeties and training for project management. I also teach at the university, Everglades University, construction management and renewable energy for students on bachelor's and master's degree science. And my full-time job, I am an elevator inspector with Broward County, building code section in Fort Lauderdale, Broward County. In 2022, I presented in the conference my paper, International Elevator and Escalator Symposium 2022, and this is the book from the conference itself. My paper was Vertical Transportation, Safety Awareness, Inclusiveness, and Design Approach Matters in the Global Frame. I captured some maybe unusual items that hasn't been touched in the past, but at the same time become to be crucial nowadays.
I can lift you up, take you to the sky. Dreams in your pocket, let them fly high. Step on the platform, feel the vibe. One chance, one shot, come alive. Elevator pitch, it's your time to shine.
Thank you very, very much for your presentation, Magd. Now, for all of you that don't know Magdalena, she said she has a doctorate in mechanical engineer. She's like superwoman. I fell in love with her the first time I saw her at Barcelona with all her presence, because she's like, she glows everywhere. and it really caught my attention for sure, because even though I also have been a lot of time in this industry, I never thought about the problematic that you brought to the table, and I think it is a very important thing to have into account. Just when you start designing the elevators, just in the beginning, you have to have this concept that you presented that has to do with autistic people, right? Helping the autistic people have the safest and the most easy trip on the elevator, that actually is the first transportation mean in the world, right?
Exactly. I had two aspects that I spoke at the conference. One thing was design approach first, that capture a little bit of maybe unusual subject, but it's still very present of today. Design with autism in mind, that matters. And the second aspect was the safety approach, something that it's continuing now, a new conference upcoming in Buenos Aires, which is very exciting. In 2022, I had two parts. I touched the autism, and basically because of the numbers, going to the statistics, while the numbers show up, the increased number of autistic people with autism on the autism spectrum. And as well, the increased number touches a little different subject. Can we design elevators? Can we approach the elevators with a little bit more sensory, from the sensory aspects? Now, this is an interesting also, because in 1956, one of the publications from Edward Hall is very famous in that time, talking about this distance receptors. And distance receptors are nowadays as well present too. So talking about distance receptor, 1966, basically, the publication from 1966, it says, along with space and sensory characteristics are one of the important aspects of the designing in general our space, our living space. Since elevators are part of the living space, I consider that probably it's one of the most important things. That can we adapt to the different population? Can we make something that can fit everybody at the same time, and then include sensory applications? the second portion is the safety, which I'm going to leave it a little bit further, something for your conference as well.
Perfect. Of course, we would love to know your approach to the safety of the elevator regarding this topic. But I was thinking while you were talking, how did this analysis come from, right? Because it's not just a technical analysis. I mean, it has to do because it's a design that you are focusing on changing regarding a specific situation that has that nowadays has its own issues during the regular world, as you said, like in your own house. I mean, it's part of your house, the elevator nowadays. So every people has to come up and forth. How did you end up having such a inclusive thinking for the elevator? You know, because maybe sometimes the inclusive is like the physical capacity to get to a 7th floor, to be able to have a comfortable space in the elevator, but having the noise coming into this same aspect. I mean, at least myself, I never read any paper regarding this.
I do believe it's probably among the first ones, I would say, within the elevator area. However, from the architectural, from the design perspective, I do believe there are so many out there. I read a lot of publications on this subject. They're not as much as I would say. If you don't look for it, probably it's not going to come up. But from the elevator perspective, I do believe maybe it's one of the first ones. Why it came up? What inspired me? There are two aspects. First, being myself, originally I am a Macedonian coming up from Europe, where ADA, Americans with Disability Act, which is present right now where I am. I've been living in the United States for a long time now, 20-some years. It's probably something that it's not as much as prevalent in Europe as it is over here. And specifically, Europe is an older country with the older buildings. The buildings that are in there and the buildings that already has been built, they're in existence. The aspects of the ADA is not there, but that's only one portion. That's only disability. Now, if disability, we're looking at disability as the way to approach the elevator, a way to work around the elevator. Well, a way that anybody who has a difficulties walking, whether they can not to take stairs, but to have an easy access, that is basically what is needed. And it's not only for senior people, also for people with disability, also for us. We kind of get injured playing sports and we need an access, right? So for anybody out there. But on the second aspect is the specifics, like autism, with autism in mind. So why it come up? I was just randomly looking for numbers and changes in the past years. Me, myself, I like to take some healthy way of living more into my perspectives, and then I decided to let's look at the numbers. It came up just randomly, and following up the numbers, there's certain interesting statistics that I found. That there was basically 1 in 36 children. I'm just looking at some of my notes here. It says 1 in 36 children were diagnosed with autism spectrum in 2020. The year 2020, that's per CDC 2023 publications. In 2022 and 2023, approximately there were 980,272 individuals, 3 to 71 with autism, 13% covered by individuals with disability education, and so on and on. And every year, these are some numbers that I randomly start looking at them and says, okay, so there is an increase. So what is it there that is so specific? And then came up that although everybody has a different sensory aspects to it, then certain things maybe in general that they're feeling into that perspective. All of us, we want to, when we get to the elevator, to feel welcome, to feel fine, to feel nice, to look at it something other than the functionality of it, but to feel pleasant and comfortable once you are in there. So it covers so many aspects. It's not only the disability. It's also the eye, the ears, the way how we perceive things, the color, the texture, and everything that comes into it. Now, all that brings some other aspects. How can we implement the artificial intelligence into all this and the new technology? So several things together. So that came up into my mind. I was thinking for that for a long time, and then basically it's probably 2022 came to a basic fruitful publication on the IES symposium. Before that, I was probably having more and more trials to find and to get some actual questionnaire done or anything else. So it was prior some kind of interest and work, which 2022 became to be probably one of the publications where we met there too.
We met there, yeah. And for example, what results have been given through that analysis? I mean, what should we include in our elevators in order to include the autistic passengers, in order for them to have a safe a safe trip?
Well, just again, it's rethinking. It's a process of rethinking. It's a process of thinking. It's a way. So there are two aspects. One is the applicability of the elevators, right? Where do we have it in the residential? Do we have it in commercial building? So what are the local codes and regulations? So local codes and regulations are the minimum that has to be completed. The one who has those elevators and the builder has to comply with the regulations. Now, we're talking something which is above and beyond the basic aspects. So which means, how do we consider from a design standpoint what is needed, knowing what is our population around it, what is changing with our population, what are the needs with the population. So that will come as I would say, something that should be considered, or it can be considered in the specifications further when the elevators are introduced to certain building, or maybe when something is modernized and the development of the new AI technology again comes up to olfactory specifications, or something that is the receptors such as texture, recognition, maybe the sound, the light, the different types of light, and accommodation of all this. I would say more design aspects that are changing versus the actual functionality itself.
Do you know, or are you aware is there at least one of the big companies implementing something like this?
No, not aware. Not aware. This is probably one of the first ones that has been introduced. I do believe I may be a pioneer in this aspect, in this idea to it. I spoke. So I spoke with different, I would say, professionals in different venues. I would say architects are probably the ones which are more discussing about aspects of it, but basically it's more linked to the applicability of the building itself. Now with the elevators, it's pretty interesting. Just because I would say thinking about the elevator itself, and not many people like elevators. I'd say a lot of people will say, oh, I took the stairs, I don't like elevators, or I don't feel too comfortable in the elevators. So when we think about that, people who are using everyday elevators, they don't feel sometimes so comfortable getting into the elevator. Then why don't we make it to everybody to be to enjoy the ride, right?
Totally.
That was the idea when it came.
Okay, that's super cool. Now going to safety. Tell us a little bit about your investigations or your yes, how do you say, analysis?
Yeah. So just before I jump to it, there was an interesting thing, so I can just wrap up with the autism subject on that section that I presented. In 1966, Edward Hall that referred to the problem of design. It says this way: it says designing and rebuilding cities with understanding of the needs of large number of population. It's a critical to make it. So we're talking about so many years after, like almost 60 years after that time, we're still thinking about, can we make something more functional, or we can make the things to be just to the bare minimum what the requirements are and to complete it. So that was the whole idea, the challenges and recognizing elders to recognize its passenger, to adapt to the passenger characteristics and I would say the patterns on movement. Now, from the safety perspectives, so there are. Let's put it this way. There are several aspects of safety. So whether we talk about installing the elevator, where we're talking about riding the elevator, we're talking about end user, we're talking about different aspects of it. So safety is critical. Let's put it this way. There is no negotiation with that particular portion. So that is something that should be taken as the only way around to the maximum proportion from all aspects, when it's the new installation in mind, when it's the renovation in mind, where it's modernization in mind. As an end user, there's certain probably different aspects over there, which has been brought up by certain statistics. And with going around that statistics, so obviously certain things are addressed a little further down, so to enhance the safety perspective of usage. So that's in short and in brief.
Yes, all topics that are super important to talk about and to repeat, right? Because it's something that it has to stick on the mind of everyone, not just stay like on a presentation. That's why from our side, and I swear to God that every time I talk with someone regarding some type of phobia in the elevators or some kind of misunderstanding or someone that feels uncomfortable, I always say there was this doctor in Barcelona that made a great presentation regarding autistic people, but because it's that, I mean, nobody talks about it, you know? So it's important to start talking about it and making some noise. And
well, basically we can't change anything if we cannot measure. So the only thing is to measure and to find out where the actual weak points are.
Totally.
So those weak points, flagging those as red flags to say, okay, this is where we need to improve. This is where we need to pay attention, and looking at the objectives on each of the, I would say, stakeholders into all that. And who are the stakeholders? It's only everybody who is using the elevator, everybody who is installing the elevator, everybody who has an interest into that elevator, everybody who cross paths with that elevator, right? So looking at from all sides. Then putting in line and finding the instrument to monitor, enforce, and implement to total resolution, I would say, with public safety in mind.
And some changes are quite easy to do, right? I mean, it's not a big change. For example, changing the light, changing the sound of an elevator. I mean, it's not something hard to do. And even though if you don't think about it, you say, okay, it's just light. I mean, put the normal one. Right, so that's why I think it's important on communicating and repeating and talking to people and let everyone know this type of investigations, because it's super important. So
yeah, it's basically a long term. It's a long term synergetic approach between various factors together, but it has to be the first thing in mind.
Totally. So now changing of subject, and we are almost finalizing this podcast. I start with I'm like a car, you know, when in winter, fin, just stuck there. How did you end up in the elevator business?
Oh, that's a question. It was a long time ago. It's when I did my bachelor study back in. I'm not going to say how long it was. Like
10 years ago, 5 years ago.
It was years ago. When I had my bachelor study, my thesis was designing of the panoramic passenger elevator. So that was probably the first touch. And then after that, I started working very soon for a developer and get in touch with the actual field, with the installers, the project management side. And I further developed into master degree. My master degree was, what was the topic? It was synchronization. It was more like synchronization between the standards, American code and European norms in regard to the passenger elevators. And that time there was no, there was not, it was completely different. It was like 2000, about 2000, year 2000, working on this. And one thing after another, just happened to be and become to be my passion for the past, where is that, 1997?
Wow. I wouldn't have guessed that.
1997.
That's amazing.
After I had my bachelor's, I think. Yeah.
So that's amazing. So
it's been a ride. It's been a hell of a ride.
You are everywhere. So I mean, something good has to have come along with all the efforts,
nice.
right?
It is nice. Yeah, I've been fortunate. I've been fortunate indeed to work on some key projects around the world. Probably the most significant that left a great. It's a great honor to be part of it. Was the new World Trade Center Tower 4 that was in New York. That was briefly involved in that 2008, 9, and 10 when I worked for the elevator company. Then I worked on the site on the general contractor back in there was back in 2006, 5. Then different that was in Doha in the Middle East. Working over here in Miami for a long time. There was a Bright Line, the train station, working for elevator company. There are lots of other, not to mention lots of other different company, I would say projects that left significant mark to it. So it's like just, I've been fortunate, I would say, to be part of that. Maybe the most critical one was when I look at the projects from different side. There was the rehabilitation back in 2000, 2001, working in Sarajevo in that time after war, post-war era, when I was assigned to work there for around 2 years. So that was a different aspects of the elevator trade. It's mostly rehabilitation that we're not used to it as much as saving whatever is in there. But it was an interesting, I would say, experiences all these years.
So and having to do with that, this is not a question that I actually hate this question, but I know it's always around somewhere. And being a woman, because they always ask this to me, I mean I don't feel it that way, but I know that there is in the air something. Being a woman in this industry, which is full of men everywhere, how does it feel?
It's good. It's good. I guess we are not as many. I would say I'll put it that way. We're not as many, but I think our presence is it's really important to balance, to look at that, and we can look at the things maybe with the different sets of eyes, but at the same time we can bring the same value in this industry as everybody else. Great. It's so great to see you there, and I hope that I can see you more and more.
Thank you a lot for your time. I know you are super busy, and you making this couple minutes, that's almost an hour for me. I really appreciate it, and I truly hope I see you in December. Come a couple days before, and I'll take you for a free tour on my city.
I'm looking forward to see you there. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye, Alea.
Thanks for joining us on this vertical journey. If you enjoyed the episode, subscribe, share, and connect with me on LinkedIn as Alea Guillemi to spark innovative ideas. Don't stay on the bottom floor. Join us for new heights.
I can lift you up, take you to the sky. Dreams in your pocket, let them fly high. Step on the platform, feel the vibe. One chance, one shot, come alive. Live